Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Khonsa Syahidah. I am from Faculty of Education, English Education Study Program with student number 18821500027 from Panca Sakti University, Bekasi. In this video, I want to explain about passive voice for the midterm test second semester for the subject Intermediate English Grammar with the lecturer Mr. Franscy M.Pd. So let's get started. First, what is the passive voice? Look at these sentences. This dish is made with eggs and cheese. The car was badly damaged in the accident. Their house looks like it hasn't been cleaned for months. All of these examples use the passive voice. Can you see how and why? Let's look. In a regular active sentence, you start with the subject, then you add verb, which often has an object. For example, a dog bit me when I was 5. Can you find the subject, verb, and object in this sentence? Yeah. A dog is subject. Bit is verb. Me is object. And when I was 5. To make the sentence passive, the subject and object change places. I was bitten by a dog when I was 5. When you make a sentence passive, you only change the subject, verb, and object. Everything else stays the same. In this example, when I was 5 isn't part of the subject, verb, object structure. So it's the same whether the sentence is active or passive. Next, let's see how to form the passive voice. Look at 3 sentences from the start of the lesson again. They look different, but they all contain the passive. What do the sentences have in common? All 3 sentences contain the verb be and the past participle. The past participle is also called verb number 3. This is what you need to form passive sentence. When you form the passive, you need be plus past participle. Here are the forms of be. Am, are, is in the present. Was, were in the past. You can use being with perfect tense and being in continuous tense. You need a form of this plus that past participle, which is verb number 3. Eat, ate, eaten. Eaten is the past participle. Play, played, played. Played is the past participle. So, let's compare 2 sentences. First, this bottle of ketchup has already been opened. Second, I have been tired for weeks. Which sentence is passive? Right, the first one. Why? Because in this sentence have the be and the past participle. In the second sentence, have be, which is great, but it doesn't have a past participle. Tired is an adjective, so that sentence isn't a passive. So, always remember the passive has be and past participle. Let's do some practice. Can you add the missing verbs to these 3 sentences? If you're not sure, Remember the rule from before. You need be plus a past participle. Here you need to put the verbs into the past participle forms. Pause the video and think about your answers. Ready? Here are the full sentences. Here's a question. These sentences contain the verb be, but it's different in each sentence. Do you know why? Let's look together. What do you do if you want to make a passive sentence past or future or present perfect? What changes? Look at our last 3 examples again. Remember that the passive is made of 2 parts, be plus past participle. What changes and what stays the same? The answer, you can change the verb be to use different tenses and times. The past participle never change. Whether you're talking about the past, the present, or the future, the past participle stays the same. Let's see how this works. Past. The letters were sent to all our customers last week. Present. The letters are sent to all our customers every week. Present perfect. The letters have been sent to all our customers this week. Future with will. The letters will be sent to all our customers next week. Of course, there are other possible forms, but the idea is the same. There are also passive infinitives with to. The letters need to be sent to all customers. And there are passive ing forms. For example, many customers like being sent regular newsletters. You can see the same patterns every time, be plus past participle. And the verb be can change to show different times or forms. Am, are, is in the present, was, were in the past. You can use been with perfect tense and being in continuous tense. The past participle never change in any form of the passive. I have more important piece of information to tell you about the passive. Intransitive verbs cannot be made into the passive. What is an intransitive verb? An intransitive verb doesn't have an object. For example, I bought a coffee. Buy is a transitive verb. It needs an object. In this case, the object is coffee. I arrived late. Here, arrive is an intransitive verb. It doesn't need an object. I arrive. It's fine. There's no object needed. It's transitive. So, send is number 1 if I want to make it the passive. A coffee was bought. Perfect. Sentence number 2. It's not possible. Intransitive verb, no passive. Okay, now you know the most important points about how the passive is formed. But why do you use the passive? There are 3 common reasons to use the passive voice. First, you want to change the emphasis of your sentence. 2, the subject of your sentence is a noun or unimportant. 3, you want to sound more impersonal or indirect. Let's look at this one by one. First, use the passive to change the emphasis of your sentence. Look at two sentences. First, Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. The first sentence is active and the second is passive. What's the difference? If you're not sure, think about this. Which is the most important idea in each sentences? In the first sentence, you're more interested in the Leonardo da Vinci. In the second sentence, you're more interested in the Mona Lisa. In English, putting an idea at the beginning of the sentence shows that it's more important. You can use the passive to change the emphasis of your sentence and show what you think is the most important idea. Second, use the passive when the subject is a noun or unimportant. What does that mean? Let's look. First, my bike was stolen. Second, the kitchen has been cleaned today. Third, she was arrested for shoplifting. Why do you think you use the passive in these three cases? In these examples, you either don't know or don't care who did the action. First, my bike was stolen. By whom? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that it was stolen. I don't have my bicycle anymore. Second, the kitchen has been cleaned today. By whom? Here, it doesn't matter. You only care about the fact that the kitchen is now clean. Third, she was arrested. By whom? By the police, of course. You don't care exactly who arrested her. You know that the police arrested her because it's obvious from the context. No one else can arrest people except police. In these sentences, you only care about the action itself. You don't know or don't care who did it. If you want to say who does the action, you can use an agent. We form the agent using by plus person or subject. The agent is optional. For example, my bike was stolen by someone. The kitchen has been cleaned by office boy. She was arrested by police, of course. There's one more common reason to use the passive. The third is to sound impersonal. Here's a question. What's the difference between these two examples? First, you need to do this by the end of the week. Second, this needs to be done by the end of the week. If someone says this to you, the basic meaning is the same. So, what's the difference? The second sentence with the passive is more indirect and impersonal. This is because it avoids the word you need to, which appear in the first sentence. Using the passive in this way can help you to sound more formal and polite. Saying you need to do this by the end of the week is very direct. It sounds like an order, which could be rude in some situations. Now, you know how to form the passive and the most common ways to use it. But there's one more important point. Many problems English learners have with the passive happen because they overuse it. Here's the important point. Don't use the passive if you don't have a good reason to use it. If you use the passive, especially when you're writing, think about why you're using it. Do you need to use it to change the emphasis of your sentence? Do you need to sound more formal and impersonal? Do you want to focus on the action instead of whoever did the action? If not, don't use the passive. Using the passive makes your sentences longer and more complicated. This isn't good unless it's necessary. First, it's inefficient because you'll need more words to express the same idea. Second, it makes your writing harder to read. So remember that to use the passive, you need a good reason. If there's no reason, don't use it. And that it's about passive voice. Remember, each tense has its own passive structure. You need a list. Here I have a list of the tenses and you can see that be and the past participle. The tenses present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous do not have a natural passive form. Do not try to form the passive using these tenses. Now, I don't want you to think, oh, there are so many structures for me to memorize. Step 1, you recognize the passive. Step 2, you understand the passive. And step 3, you use the passive. Whichever step you're on, it's fine. And that is from me for the explanation about passive voice. I'm sorry if there's any wrong, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.